Oh yeah.
Which is awesome.
We love this thing. I mean,
awesome.
This was home for a long time and it's been all over the place and yeah, never did us wrong. Well, my name is Parker and we're inside the habitat of my 1990 Mercedes-Benz Unimog camper. We drove pretty much the whole western US. We spent our first little bit kind of close to Utah. So we wanted to make sure that, if we wanted to make any changes, we were close to ACME, we could come back and get some stuff done. And then we spent a good amount of time up in British Columbia. I think we spent our whole summer and a good part of fall up there before heading back down when it started getting too rainy. Favorite spot, I think, was probably Vancouver Island. I didn't expect it to have as much to explore as it did. We were there during mushroom season too. And so, yeah, the north side of Vancouver Island specifically, I think was the highlight for me. So how did I get into the overlanding expedition world? So where I grew up was in the rural Sierra Nevada mountains, and four-wheeling was a big thing. I had neighbors who were like older brothers to me that they were into building rock crawlers. So I was kind of always around the 4x4 scene. And when I got my first vehicle, I got a Jeep Wrangler, and we would just throw the camping stuff in the Jeep, go explore fire roads. So just getting out and camping, it was such a cool transition into having just so much access to places that I wouldn't go just hiking or backpacking. And just, I bought up every Forest Service map that I could from the local Forest Service station, and yeah, just tried to get out and see as much as we could from where I grew up. So what pushed us towards a expedition truck as opposed to a van or an RV? We knew we wanted to have a proper four-wheel drive vehicle with a 2-speed transfer case. So that pretty much takes all RVs off the table. We actually did consider a van for a long time. And what really got us away from a van is once we had sort of decided on wanting a full-size shower and having storage for bikes, paddleboard, skis, all of that stuff, it was just way too much to cram into the footprint of a van. There wasn't really a functional floor plan that we could come up with, or discussing with Tom or other folks that we could figure out that sort of fit everything that we needed into that small of a package. So the only thing left was the bigger trucks. Was there anything that surprised me about owning a truck, or owning this truck in particular? Would be the amount of attention that you get. But also the opportunities that opens up. We met a ton of people. Just everyone is curious who you are, what the vehicle is, what you're doing with it. And so, we made friends that I'll have for life just through, happenstance, because we passed them on the road and they stopped us because we were driving this thing. So yeah, I think just the amount of opportunities that opened up. Oh, one cool story, or funny story. We were in Salida in Colorado, and we parked to go grocery shopping. And as we're walking back to the truck, I hear a big diesel coming from behind us. And I turn around and there's this blue Unimog coming the other way. And I was like, oh, what a funny coincidence. And sure enough, at the signal, he makes a U-turn, drives up right behind our truck. He had seen us driving into town. He was driving his commuter back from work, and he ran home to get his truck, drove back to town to find us, just so that we could talk Unimogs for 5 or 10 minutes. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. How did I decide on the Unimog chassis? There was a lot of back and forth. I think where it really started was getting the habitat size and sort of features figured out. Once we knew what appliances, what amount of space, the garage area that we needed, that was what got us away from the van. We realized that we needed a little more space. And I've always loved Unimogs. I think they're just the coolest trucks that there are. And it kind of made sense from a footprint. These things are not much bigger than a full-size pickup if you park next to it, but you can put a 13-foot box on the back of it and, kind of maintain that small footprint, a lot of living space. So yeah, we're looking at the bigger Mercedes trucks as well. We're looking at Unimogs. I was looking at Fusos, and, part of it comes down to also is this is what we found in the timeline that we needed. It was within our budget. And so, yeah, I think we kind of hit the sweet spot on space. Yeah. We were trying to really ride that line of having enough space to be comfortable for full-time living. We lived in this thing for a year and a half, but we didn't want to be so big that it was hard to get into, city streets, park in regular parking lots. And so, yeah, there's sacrifices on both sides. It's still a big truck when it comes down to it. You can't get down all the trails you could in a Jeep or a smaller vehicle, but I think that trade-off, along with the trade-off of this thing being kind of small for a full-time living situation, was sort of right where we wanted to end up. So yeah, I think we kind of wound up in the perfect size. So I had talked to Tom prior to buying this truck. I had gotten connected with his business partner who can source trucks from Europe. So we were using him as a resource to try and find a vehicle as well. And I had talked to a couple other custom builders just to get a feeling for what people were capable of, what they were charging, what their kind of style was. There's not a lot of competition in the US for like a truly custom shop that does the variety of things that ACME does. So having in-house design for metalwork, being able to fabricate everything from, building the box, making, the hatch doors, making custom roof racks, boxes, doing all of the cabinetry and the interior work. There's not a lot of options when you get into those realms. And then when we visited and saw the sort of quality of the work, Tom and the team's design style and their kind of aesthetic, we liked everything that they were doing. It's a family-run business. They were all great to work with from the get-go. So yeah, it was an easy decision. Some intentional bits about the floor plan that stick out. We really started with the function, so fitting everything we wanted to into the build, and then weight was a big topic from the early design talks. I really wanted to keep this thing as light as possible. These Unimogs, they are big trucks, but they don't have the same payload capacity as, the bigger Isuzus or the bigger Mercedes chassis. So definitely wanted to keep it as light as we could, and I wanted to keep as much weight forward and down low as possible. These are really capable off-road vehicles, and I didn't want to affect that off-road performance by, building something that was too heavy, too top heavy, or otherwise just didn't fit the chassis well. So once we kind of had that, and the fact that we wanted to bring along all of our toys that we like to travel with, so mountain bikes, we have an inflatable paddleboard, backcountry skis, boots, all of that stuff. We knew we needed a big garage, and we wanted a big water tank that was forward in the floor plan and low. And we wanted a full-size shower. And once we had sort of those three things, everything else kind of designed itself. It's a pretty small space, so there's only so many places you can put things. And yeah, once you sort of define those foundations, then it kind of came together pretty easy. And that was one thing. When I had originally sketched this out, this whole side of the camper was actually over here. And we had a slightly larger kitchen on the driver's side. And Tom recommended that we swap that around because it really does open up the space when you have the door next to a, countertop as opposed to floor to ceiling walls. So I think that made a big difference as far as like how light it feels. And yeah. So we had originally spec'd the truck with 3 storage boxes up on the roof rack, and the rear rack on the back of the Habitat had the spare tire mounted. As I mentioned earlier, one of the big considerations early on was weight distribution. And we just turned out too butt heavy. You could drive it fine, but you could definitely feel the fact that it was sort of rear biased in the weight. And so we decided to ditch 3 rooftop boxes, and we moved our spare tire to the cab of the roof. And we're pretty much exactly 50-50 front to back. We're like, it's less than 100 pounds different, and left to right, we are exactly 50-50. So yeah, just making that change made a huge difference in the handling of the truck. And yeah, we gave up a little bit of storage, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't like driving the truck, why are you doing it? So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you regretted taking off those storage boxes, because that's a lot of storage to lose.
It is a lot of storage to lose. It is storage on top of the cab of the vehicle is not super easy to get into. So, for lesser used items, it's really nice to have. We didn't need that much for lesser used items. So it's not ideal, obviously, to give up storage, but to improve the handling characteristics of the vehicle, it was an easy trade-off to make. All right, yeah, so appliances in the vehicle. We have a forward opening as opposed to like a chest top opening fridge, which if you have the space is amazing. It just makes finding things and getting things out of the fridge so much easier. It's also quite large for an RV or an expedition vehicle, so we can fit a bunch of food, drinks. We've never really had to stress about fridge space, which is super nice. We have another thing that I love, a full-size sink. We didn't go with one of the van or RV sinks, which was very intentional. I don't know if you've ever tried to wash dishes in a little RV sink, but water goes everywhere. It's just not fun or comfortable, so no regrets on losing a little bit of storage space to in turn have a big sink. And then we have the single burner induction cooktop. I had propane in my previous truck, and I didn't want to deal with having propane lines run inside the truck anymore. And this thing's got the space, so we have a big battery bank and a ton of solar on it, and we've never had an issue having enough power to cook. So yeah, I think induction, if you've got the power to take care of it, is definitely the way to go. And then we have ventilation is pretty basic. We have one exhaust fan that's behind the fridge. And then we have this one Sirocco just fan to move air around inside. A lot of what we do is just open up windows. Just do passive ventilation that way.
Any advice that you have for someone that's looking to build a truck like this?
Do it. Such a cool way to travel. To have the capability of a truck like this with the comfort of a small apartment or RV or whatever you want to compare it to. It's like a really comfortable, nice way to travel. It opens a lot of doors for getting to see really remote places. And yeah, I think if you're just getting into it, there's a ton of online resources for people who like to learn things themselves, figure things out. But there's so much that goes into building one of these that, like, consulting with, whether you're consulting someone on a forum or contacting a custom builder, you can spiral for weeks on small things like what fridge to get or how big your water tank needs to be. And just having someone with that experience that you can talk to and figure your build out is super helpful.